Hello there, YouTube. It is your very sick friend, B3 here, back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we are looking at Batman Earth 1, the complete collection. Yes, so this is basically an omnibus that takes all three volumes of Batman Earth 1 and makes them one big volume for your reading pleasure. Speaking of, let me read you the back of the book here. We won't abandon those who are sick and need help. Bruce Wayne battles the toxicity of Gotham City and his own family history as he forges a path for himself as Batman. Up against the horrors of his home and villains like the Riddler and Two-Face, Batman's journey is more dangerous than ever before. Superstar writer JOHNS and artist Gary Frank imagine a new mythology for the Dark Knight, developing a fresh take on the brooding hero in this original graphic novel from DC Comics. It includes the entirety of Batman Earth 1. Now, at the time of recording this, obviously it's going live way after, like months after recording. But at the time of recording this, the Absolute Universe has kind of just started. We're in like issue 2 of Absolute Batman currently. And the Absolute Universe has actually kind of reminded me a lot of these old Earth 1s that they started putting out around the time of the New 52. And the Earth 1s, of course, kind of reminded me of the All-Stars before that. The All-Star line failed as Elseworlds because of scheduling conflicts. And Earth 1 kind of failed for the same reason. They just didn't come out regularly, and people, just by the time they were starting to come out more, people had kind of already moved on. You know? Like, I remember waiting forever, I think, for, like, the second Green Lantern one. Who remembers, though? But yeah, Jim Lee was kind of in charge of a lot of these, despite Geoff Johns writing this one. But he was more in charge in like an executive way. And he told the creators of these graphic novels, which were released as graphic novels and not as single issues, he told them, hey, look, just finish them when you finish them, okay? It's fine. And it was actually really chill of him. Like, as a creative director, that was like a really chill thing of him to do for his staff. But at the same time, that way of thinking also kept these books delayed, and is also eventually what led to people losing interest in them. I believe at the end of the day we got 3 volumes of Batman, 3 volumes of Superman, 3 volumes of Wonder Woman, 2 volumes of Teen Titans, and 2 volumes of Green Lantern. And they planned an Aquaman and a Flash, which never came to fruition. Unfortunately, because I would have loved to read them. But now, let me get into the Batman Earth 1 complete collection here by Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, John Sabal, and Brad Anderson. First off, I just want to say the art is incredible. Top tier art. You know, I think Gary Frank and Geoff Johns were also the ones that did Doomsday Clock much further down the line. And you can definitely see it. Also, I love this bat suit. If they made a figure of this Batman, I would get it for sure. But this is a Batman who did not train all around the world to be a crime fighter and detective and stuff. He trained with Alfred, and that's it. He doesn't have, like, any detective skills. He was taught all the combat that Alfred knows, and he doesn't seem to be the super genius that the main continuity Batman is. It's a much more grounded Batman. It's a much more believable Batman. And this Batman is not nearly as good at his job as others. He's kind of going out before he's ready. Like, he has, you know, his little grapple gun. He fires it, and it, like, explodes on him. And he tries to jump across a rooftop, and he misses and hits the ground. He falls into a bunch of trash bags. And this is a Batman very, very much out for a personal agenda. Like, he's trying to figure out who killed his parents, and that's it. Because after he falls in the trash bags, he stands up, he sees a store getting robbed, and he just walks away. He doesn't do anything about it. This is a Batman who has yet to decide to fight crime for everyone and not just for himself. But this is a compassionate Batman. Right after this, we see him give a large amount of money to a homeless person that he walks by. This is a very generous Batman and a compassionate Batman, but he's not quite compassionate enough yet. But we see that Alfred, this Alfred is more of a soldier who seems to maybe have kind of served with Thomas Wayne. He's like the only person Thomas Wayne really, really trusts. And Thomas Wayne is currently running for mayor against the Penguin. Yeah, I know. But he calls Alfred in to kind of be their bodyguard, and he's like, "You start tomorrow, Alfred. Tonight we're taking Bruce to the theater." Yeah, you know where it's going. So, of course, the power goes off in the theater, and then right outside the theater, the Waynes get shot and killed. And it's tragic. And a lot of people, like just people throughout Gotham, think the Penguin did it, but the murder of the Waynes goes fully unsolved. Well into Bruce's adulthood. But the Waynes, without asking his permission, which is kind of a dick move, named Alfred Bruce's legal guardian. And when Alfred goes to talk to Bruce about all this, he doesn't quite know how to say it. He can't quite bring himself to say that he's basically Bruce's foster dad. So he just says he's his butler, even though Alfred is in no way actually a butler in this one. But I suppose he kind of becomes one. So, we see that this Bruce doesn't have a bat cave or much of anything. Then we see a Jim Gordon and a Harvey Bullock, who are very different from previous incarnations. This Jim Gordon is one that's kind of lost hope entirely in the legal system. His wife was murdered by street gangs because he stood up to them. So now Gordon, he's not on the take. Like, he's not being paid, but he does roll over for these street gangs and stuff because he knows they're going to kill his daughter if he does anything. And Harvey Bullock comes into town, and he's like this incredibly handsome, like, Hollywood cop. Like, he's a real cop, but he's done a lot of consulting work and on-screen work for, like, true crime shows and stuff. And he's got this big, happy, optimistic smile, and he thinks he's going to be the one to solve the murder of the Waynes. Ugh, yeah, sure, bud. Sure, bud. But, yeah, he's like this super handsome Harvey Dent. And in some panels, he kind of looks like Christian Bale, actually. Which I feel like is maybe intentional, because this was kind of on the heels of The Dark Knight, if I remember. Anyhow, we see really a lot from this point on. We find out that Harvey Dent has a twin sister that Bruce used to date. You know, and Bruce is not just a Wayne in this, but an Arkham. Yeah. And all the Arkhams, you know, they all went crazy and killed someone or themselves, etc., etc. So yeah, Bruce's family kind of has this big history of mental illness, which a lot of people think is a curse. And clearly Bruce is also mentally ill because he dresses up as a bat and beats people up in the streets. We also see him recruit Lucius Fox, who is a much younger Lucius Fox. Much younger. And we also see that even though Harvey is this kind of Hollywood detective that really does care about fame and appearances and stuff, he actually isn't terrible at police work. And he actually does care if, like, people get hurt. And he does care about justice. It's in there. It's just underneath this Hollywood facade, you know? But, you know, we see Mayor Penguin and this serial killer called the Birthday Boy, who I believe was created for this. He's kind of this big slasher villain looking guy who kills little girls that remind him of his dead daughter, who was his first victim. Or maybe it wasn't his daughter. It doesn't matter. But we see Bruce Wayne trying to solve the death of his parents as Batman. And he's really not doing a great job. Alfred keeps telling him that he's not ready, even though he has Lucius actually making him decent tech now. And we see that the Penguin is about as corrupt as you get. This Penguin really isn't that different from other Penguins, except he's mayor. But, you know, Penguin runs for mayor isn't anything that we're stranger to. I mean, it literally happened in the 66 Batman show. It's actually one of my favorite episodes. It's multiple episodes, but it's one of my favorites. When we see Bruce fight Alfred, and Alfred's like, you're just not ready, you don't have what it takes, and they're like fighting, and Bruce like kicks his prosthetic leg out from under him, and Alfred's like, oh, maybe he's a bit more ready than I thought, etc. etc. But yeah, the Penguin's goons actually give Barbara Gordon over to this serial killer because, you know, they've of course warned Gordon. They're like, hey, don't look into the Wayne case. Don't look into it. But Harvey Dent doesn't have his police clearances yet and stuff, so he signs out the files under Jim Gordon's name for the Thomas and Martha Wayne murders. So, the corrupt cops that see that they were signed out, of course, think Gordon has them and is investigating, so they've kidnapped Barbara Gordon, his daughter. Uh-oh. Not good. Not great. But we see Barbara kind of almost get out of it herself. But Batman, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Bullock all go to kind of stop the birthday boy and stuff, who is holed up in Bruce Wayne's old ancestral home, the big Arkham house. You know, they fight the birthday boy. They beat the birthday boy. We see Batman starting to get better and better at this. And this is also where Harvey Dent kind of cracks, because he falls into this old basement, and it's just full of the dead bodies of little girls. And that is really what makes Harvey finally see that Gotham is not an ordinary city with ordinary crime. And so yeah, Batman goes to face Two-Face because he knows Two-Face is enabling the birthday boy killings and stuff. And he's like, kind of gets a little beaten up by the Penguin. Did I say Two-Face? By the Penguin. Because the Penguin has a knife in his trick umbrella, and Batman doesn't know it's a trick umbrella, because this is his first kerfuffle with the Penguin, and it's going to be his last. Because Batman gets stabbed, Penguin unmasks him, and he's like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne. And Penguin tells Bruce that he was going to have Bruce's parents killed that night. His men are the ones who cut the power. When the Waynes exited out front, Penguin's goons were supposed to kill them. But they didn't exit out front because Bruce ran out the side door while he was being a spoiled brat. And that means they followed him into that alley where they were killed by a random mugger. So, you know, no matter what exit they left through, they were going to be killed that night. So Penguin planned to have them killed, but it turns out Gotham just killed them for him. Pretty insane. But I know what you might be thinking. Hey, if some rando actually is the one who killed the Waynes, why does Penguin care if people check out the Waynes' records about their death in the police library? Well, I had that thought too, but then I thought about it some more, and remember, Penguin's goons still cut the power. That's still a crime that was committed. So, if people keep looking into it, they could still maybe follow it back to Penguin via that crime, and maybe still think that Penguin had them killed. You can still see how the trail could lead to him. So it does make sense. But Alfred shows up with a shotgun and just fucking blows Penguin away while Penguin is about to kill Bruce. And Bruce isn't a big fan of that. He tells Alfred later, we can't kill anymore. Alfred actually really wants him to carry a gun, but he won't. But yeah, Jim Gordon kind of evolves into more of a Jim Gordon that we're used to. And Harvey Bullock falls into a bottle. He can't handle it. He's never seen anything like Gotham. Poor guy. But we also see Barbara Gordon check out a bunch of martial arts books at the library she works at. Working at a library, I feel like, is probably a 66 Batman reference. But also, we see her designing her Batgirl suit. Anyhow, we see a nice emotional moment between Bruce and Alfred, and we see Batman start to fight crime because he cares about protecting the city and not just solving his own parents' murder. Now he has reached the point where he wants to stop what happened to him from happening to others. Now it's less selfish vengeance and more still kind of selfish because it's how he's dealing with it, but not entirely. Much more compassionate, much more empathetic. And I really like this version of Batman. Like a lot. This is a Batman that is not a Mary Sue like our normal main continuity Batman. This is a Batman that has a much more average level of intelligence, it seems. A much more relatable Batman. He's still hyper wealthy, but he doesn't have a Batcave set up. He doesn't have a Batmobile. He basically has a grapple gun and some batarangs and his bat suit. Plus the training he's gotten from Alfred just in combat. And that's it. Yeah, he still has all the money, but he doesn't have all his fancy toys yet. And we get a hint at the end for the next villain, which is the Riddler. And then we move on to the second volume. Very fun. So we see a bunch of rich people in an elevator, and the Riddler gives them a riddle. They don't answer it, so he pops off an explosive and drops the elevator so that they all die. We see Batman in almost the same exact panels, shot for shot, as the beginning of Volume 1, except this time he makes the rooftop jump. Very nice. And he fights a bunch of guys, and one's going to fall off the roof, and Batman catches him and saves him. And Alfred, in his comms, is like, you know, you don't have to save him. He's a street thug guy. Like, he falls off the roof. That's fine. And Batman's like, no, he could still have a family. You know, the classic Batman reasoning. He could still have a family and stuff. I don't want to take someone's father from them. And Alfred's like, you wouldn't be. You're not the one killing him. He's just falling. And even then, Batman's like, still, I don't want a kid growing up to think that I murdered their father. And he already kind of has part of a reputation as a killer, because a lot of people think he killed the Penguin, but it seems like most people know he didn't, because they're very aware that he doesn't carry a gun. But we see Batman kind of unable to catch crooks once they get into a car. He doesn't have a fast enough car. So yeah, you know what's coming. He makes this whole department where it's basically just Lucius and a team making bat stuff for him. And he pretends it's for eccentric, rich billionaire reasons. So like they make him a Batmobile, and Lucius is like, oh yeah, you finished this cool car for Mr. Wayne, but now he's moved on to the next thing. And it really annoys the team because they put so much work into these things he wants, and then Bruce, from their perspective, seemingly abandons it. But every time he gives them like a huge raise, and he makes trust funds for their children. Like one of them, he has trust funds to cover the entirety of college tuition for one of the woman's triplets. And he has that for the kids of everyone, and he gives them all a 40% raise, and he's like, this money will kind of, help ease them, but also maybe help keep them from thinking about it a little too much. Because Lucius knows who he is, but no one else. Well, I say Lucius is the only one that knows, but like obviously Alfred knows and stuff. And over the course of this book, many more people are going to find out. Like, we see the twins, the Dents, trying to take down a lot of corruption. Because once the Penguin was taken out of office, well, by a bullet, multiple, well, it's a shotgun, so kind of a spread. But still, we saw that apparently his criminal empire has just been split up into fifths. Like, there are 5 people who all work in, like, city government who took over the Penguin's operations, and we don't know who they are. And the Dents are trying to figure that out. And people think the Dents are corrupt because they keep letting all these criminals that are finally being arrested back onto the streets. But it's because they've turned them all informant. These criminals never thought they'd be arrested. So when they were arrested, they were really shocked and really scared. And the Dents were able to take advantage of that and turn them into informants so that they can find the big criminals at the top. Which I understand the trade-off for. Plus, if those street criminals commit any new crimes, I mean, they can still be arrested for that and blah, 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 But we see that Harvey Dent has really fallen into a bottle, and he's starting to look a bit more like you would expect a Harvey Dent to, because, Harvey Dent's usually a chunky guy, and you can see this guy's chiseled Hollywood physique starting to fall away, like he's getting chubbier cheeks and stuff, because he's drinking a lot of alcohol and whatnot. But we see Gordon trying to help him through it. Gordon is a pretty good guy, pretty good friend in all this. But Jessica Dent, the Dent twin that is a creation of the creative team for this book, an old flame of Bruce's, who he still very much loves, but feels like he can't be with classic Bruce. She kind of figures out he's Batman, but she doesn't tell him she's figured out he's Batman. She wants him to be a symbol of hope as Bruce Wayne. But that doesn't exactly work out. We also see Batman come to a crime scene to talk to Gordon, and he's like contaminating the whole scene. He has no detective training. He does not understand what he's doing. He steps on evidence. He touches stuff with leather gloves, and Gordon's like, don't do that. You could smear fingerprints. Batman is really fucking this crime scene up. But they find a big question mark. And they're like, yeah, we think these people were murdered. For sure. For sure. By someone who likes to paint question marks everywhere. And then there's a bombing at an art gallery. And whenever I read Riddler stories, I always have a lot of fun trying to guess the riddles myself. So far, I haven't gotten any of them right. Which is fine, because a really good Riddler riddle for the hyper-intelligent Riddler, for the hyper-intelligent Batman, should be one that I'm not able to get as the reader. It's a good thing that I can't guess these riddles, because sometimes I can. Especially since the Riddler is usually used as a side villain, because most writers don't know how to write the Riddler. But this Riddler is a very entertaining one. So he blows up this art gallery because these people can't answer his riddle. And you might think this is a pretty decent Riddler motivation. He wants Gotham to be like smarter, kind of Zero Year-ish kind of Riddler, I think this came out before Zero Year, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. But oh well, we see Batman chasing Riddler because Riddler uses a short-form communicator so that he's hard to track, but it also means he has to be near the crime scene. But Batman kind of gets pushed out of the window by the Riddler, and he lands on a balcony, and then a woman takes him. She doesn't take his mask off, but she does stitch him up. And this woman never gives her name or anything, but you just kind of have a feeling that it's Catwoman. And he gives her like a couple $100 for her trouble and says he'll send flowers because he landed on her flower pots. But later we find out, at the end of the book, That's not what happened. That was someone else's apartment. She was in there robbing it when Batman happens to fall into it. Pretty funny. But then the Dents get a package from the Riddler, which they actually open, which is kind of insane. And Jessica brings it to Alfred because she knows that Bruce is Batman. And Bruce gets attacked by Killer Croc in the sewers. And this Killer Croc is just someone who wants to be left alone. He's not a bad guy. He's basically just trying to scare people out of his home because he has a horrible skin condition. And the circus that he was sold to as a child sharpened his teeth with a file so that he would look more crocodilian. And eventually he escaped the circus when it came to Gotham, and it's just been living in the sewers. This is not a bad guy Killer Croc. He's not a cannibal. He's none of that. And we will be reviewing Batman Reptilian in the future, just FYI. But this Killer Croc is just that he's a good guy. He even helps Batman, and then he leaves. He helps Batman find the Riddler's base in the sewers, which, of course, Riddler blows up with Batman in it, but Batman is able to survive. And then Batman runs to a train that Riddler's going to blow up, and he's like, solve the riddle and I won't blow it up. And I almost had this one. I guessed that the answer was reflection, but the answer was shadow. And Batman got it right. He solves the riddle, and Riddler blows up the train anyway. Batman gets it right, and the Riddler still blows up the train. Turns out, it's not about the riddles. The riddles are a smoke screen. Remember I said there were 5 people we didn't know the identities of? 5 people who are very, very much kind of running Gotham's underbelly now in the city government. Riddler is killing them, but he's killing a lot of people with them so that it doesn't look like he's targeting a single person. And then the riddles are another smoke screen on top of that. It's actually kind of brilliant. But here's the thing, Riddler. For that smoke screen to work, you sort of kind of have to commit to the bit. And the fact that he still killed these people, even after the riddle was solved, including a lot of innocent children that were on the train, it's not grand. It kind of gets rid of his smoke screen, which I guess is good for Batman in a way, because it kind of helps him solve what's going on. But the Riddler is also trying to frame Bruce Wayne for this, because he takes all the money from these people after he does it. Like, they're dead, and then he hacks their account and takes all their money, but he doesn't transfer it to himself, actually. No, he transfers it to Bruce Wayne. He's framing Bruce Wayne for being the Riddler. Isn't that interesting? But also, when the police come to arrest Bruce Wayne, Alfred is like, he thinks they're there for Batman. He thinks they know he's Batman because he's been telling Bruce that too many people know who you are. And all this stuff. Oh well. But this Riddler actually kind of reminds me of the Riddler from Matt Reeves' The Batman, where he kind of sees himself as a vigilante and not just the terrorist that he is. It's a very interesting Riddler. And I know that, or at least it seems that, like, the Paul Dano Riddler's main inspiration for that whole movie is The Long Halloween, just based on, like, the story structure and stuff. But I would not be surprised if Batman Earth 1 had a lot of influence over the Matt Reeves' The Batman movie. Like, I can see a lot of parallels, especially in Volume 2. Also, someone told me in the comments section a few months ago that I looked like Paul Dano, and I I looked at some pictures of him and I was like, shit, I did kind of look. It's not a good or a bad thing. He's just a normal looking guy, but I was like, oh. Then we see the Riddler kind of attack the police station, put bombs in it, and also release all the prisoners. So Batman has to fight these prisoners. And the Dent twins are there, Jessica and Harvey. And a prisoner smashes a Molotov cocktail on Harvey's face. Because, of course, you know, it's gotta happen. And they say that he's dead. But also, Jessica kind of gets a burn. Because she holds Harvey close as he's dying, and she gets a burn on the side of her face from that. Not a very big one, but it is there. It is there. You can see where it's going. But there are 2 trucks parked outside the police precinct. Batman opens one thinking the Riddler's going to be in it, and it's full of explosives. And so the Riddler starts to drive away, and then there's a panel where he really looks like Thomas Middleditch. But Batman chases him in the explosive car, and so the Riddler can't set off the explosives because Batman is staying too close. Yeah. Then Killer Croc comes up out of the sewers because he's been following Batman around, and he attacks the Riddler, and they are able to take the Riddler down. But then Batman and Killer Croc become buddies. Very fun buddies. And it seems like Harvey is maybe getting past his alcoholism thanks to Jim Gordon's help. But then Jim Gordon gets promoted, and Harvey feels like he's alone and kind of falls back into the bottle. We also see Bruce visiting Jessica in the hospital, and in Harvey's voice she says, "Stay the hell away from my sister," which is something that Harvey said to Bruce earlier in the book. So, it looks like she's gonna be's Two-Face. Uh-oh. And then we find out that that woman was in fact Catwoman. Who could have guessed? Then we get to the 3rd volume. I know this is a long video, but this is 3 volumes all in one. So it's going to be long. Sorry. But we're in it. And we see that an old Arkham, who we thought was dead, who we thought was murdered, is alive. Bruce's grandfather is alive. And now Killer Croc is a member of the Bat family, which is cool. But they find a place in the sewers far from Wayne Manor where they can make a base of operations, because the police showing up to Wayne Manor in the last volume kind of spooked them. So they're like, it would be stupid to have our base of operations under Wayne Manor. Then it would make it so easy for the police to figure out Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same. And I was like, yeah, that is really smart. Why hasn't the main continuity Batman figured that out? Like, I know he ended up in a townhouse and stuff a while back, but still, that's pretty wild. So yeah, they start to build the Batcave down there, and we see Jessica Dent is mayor, doing mayor stuff, and she has like a little mask that she wears over the side of her face. Not much of her face is harmed. You know how comic book creators are. They always have to have the women looking as pretty as possible. So they didn't want to scar too much of her face. They just wanted to keep her pretty, I guess. I think they should have scarred more of her face. You know? But later on we see Bruce, driving his new Batmobile, which I think is a good-looking Batmobile. It's kind of just like a black sports car with a big bat on the front. I actually really like it. It's like a Batmobile that looks like it could be street legal. Once again, this is like a more grounded Batman, and I like that about this Batmobile. It really works with this type of Batman. And once again, I just have to say, love this Batsuit. Someone please make a figure of it. It even has the little light-up chest like Batman Incorporated Batsuits do. Pretty cool. Anyhow, we see him have a couple of confrontations with Batwoman, and there seems to be kind of a romantic tension, but Bruce's heart clearly belongs to Jessica, who opens like a homeless shelter in Harvey Dent's name, and there seems to be a foundation in Harvey Dent's name. But Bruce Wayne takes his grandfather to, live in the manor with him. Harvey Dent gets thrown in the drunk tank, and we still have a lot of drama between him and Jim. But I'm sure most of what you want to hear about is the Batman stuff. But, you know, this man has the right dental records, because they're like, it can't be my grandfather. My grandfather was dead. He was cremated, so there's no body. But he's got the fingerprints. He's got the dental records. Everything checks out. It seems like he's just been living on the street for a while. And he wanted the world to believe he was dead because he thought that would keep the quote-unquote Arkham curse away from his daughter Martha, which it didn't, if you believe in the curse, because she was killed in an alleyway. And she had a lot of mental health problems. But who wouldn't? I mean, she watched her mother kill her father and then commit suicide. And her mother was, it turns out, actually planned on killing Martha. The reason that her dad was shot was because he took the bullet for her. So yeah, Martha Wayne having some mental health issues, yeah, more than understandable. There's a lot of tension between Alfred and Killer Croc, but they also adopt a doggy, a bat dog of sorts, because it was going to be used to train like fighting dogs for illegal dog fights. But we also find out that Harvey Dent is alive, and he is giving away all these free military grade weapons to gangs in this big gang war escalation. And that's pretty insane, right? And he's like, you know what? We can't bring justice to Gotham in the normal way. We have to destroy Gotham and start over. Gotham is guilty, and I'm sentencing it to execution. His plan is to destroy all of Gotham and use gangs and whatnot to do it. We also see Catwoman show up. She looks like an e-girl. She does. The Earthwind Catwoman really, really looks like an e-girl with like this kind of Alice in Wonderland-y Cheshire Cat kind of symbol, which could also be a very kind of Studio Ghibli. She has some Studio Ghibli looking stuff too. Very e-girl looking. But Batman is originally like, Jessica, Harvey Dent's not alive. It's you. You're Two-Face. I heard you talk as if you were your brother in the hospital. But then she gets a call from Harvey Dent. And they find out that Harvey Dent's body is not in his casket. So, Harvey Dent actually is alive. But we see Batman kind of bring Catwoman onto the team, and she is a thief, and he's like, hey, you don't need to be a thief. I'll give you a salary. He gives her $75,000 to come work for him on his team. Pretty insane. Pretty insane stuff. But then we hear all about the Arkham Curse, where it has plagued the Arkham family for years, and they've had a long history of mental health troubles. But it also kind of implies that it starts when they when they were digging out the sewers and stuff, and were building the Arkham home. There was some like ancient cave paintings and stuff down there of bats, and then a bunch of bats attacked them, and they thought those bats were like spirits. To me, personally, it kind of implies that they were maybe given rabies or something, and that is actually what happened. And then just generational trauma from that affected the Arkhams as time went on. Just generational trauma from like a whole family being given rabies and going insane and dying from it. It doesn't ever say it was rabies or stuff, but I thought that it would be on my first reading, and then in my second reading, I didn't notice this the first time I read it, but the second reading I noticed that the bats were all foaming at the mouth. So then I was like, oh, that confirms my rabies theory. If I would have just paid more attention the first time I read this, it wouldn't even have been a theory because it was confirmed. Anyhow, Harvey Dent, abducts Jessica. And he is much more badly burned than we thought. His whole face is burned. He's not Two-Face. He's One-Face, dude. He's wrecked. But then we also find out that Two-Face is working with Batman's grandfather, and his grandfather's like, we gotta take it all down. We have to burn down our legacy, and our legacy is the city. The Arkhams built this city, and the Waynes paid for it. And he sees the spirits of these bats as the curse, and then he sees his grandson running around dressed as a bat. You can understand his feelings. How he's like, Bruce, we need to burn the devil out of you. So he like brands Bruce with an Arkham A. It's pretty insane. And it turns out Jessica is Two-Face. She has a split personality. One of her brother who had anger issues, and then one is her, and her brother's personality is taking over. The Harvey we saw before was just a corpse that she's been dragging around and talking to. Which part of me kind of thought at first. I was like, oh, this Harvey Dent thing's a red herring. When he called her on the phone, it was a recording. When we saw him in the car, it was his corpse. But eventually, they finally convinced me that Harvey Dent might actually be alive. And then, right after they convinced me, they revealed it was Jessica. And I was like, dang, that's pretty good. I think, though, maybe they just should... I don't know. I don't know if never having Jessica have spoken with his voice in the hospital would have made it better. I think it actually makes it more interesting, because if they tried to hide it entirely, maybe it would have been easier for people to guess. But hinting at it, and then not doing it, and then ending up doing it, I think maybe that confused more people. It confused me. But then we find out that Bruce's grandfather isn't his grandfather. It's this man with this really weird ability. He has like malleable skin and teeth and stuff. And his fingerprints are that of Bruce's grandfather, but under them they're the fingerprints of someone else. And then under that are the fingerprints of Basil Carlo. Under that are the fingerprints of Matt Hagen. It's their version of Clayface. He doesn't have all the crazy powers and stuff that main continuity Clayface has. This is a much more grounded Clayface. But it is Clayface. Bruce's grandfather was dead. And this Clayface doesn't even seem to know his own name. He's like a blank slate that identities are given to. Very interesting. But we see Batman, or Bruce, make an Arkham Asylum that is very nice and actually is helping people. But we also get hints at a Robin and Batgirl and even Ragman. And it implies that they're going to be a team called the Outsiders. But I guess we'll never really get to see that. And it also hints at the Joker, which we're also never going to get to see. Because all these Earth 1 stuff, all the Earth 1 stuff's ended. But it's very good. So my final thoughts on Batman Earth 1, the complete collection, is that it's a really good read. Yeah, we'll never get The Outsiders Earth 1, or Batman Earth 1 Volume 4, or whatever it would have been with the Joker. And I am saddened we won't get to see that story. I'd really like to one day. If it were up to me, we would get more of these Earth 1s. But, alas, it's not really happening. But at least we have the Absolute Universe, which at the time of recording is incredible. Once again, we're only into like the second issue of the 3 books we currently have at the time of recording for the Absolute Universe. But my hopes are high. So that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. I am still sick, so I'm going to go take a nap. That's it. Thank you all once again. See you all next time. Bye for now.